Next, I would like to invite John Lancet to the stage. John Lancet is the Senior Managing Director of HVS. He's going to be providing us with a Florida Hospitality Outlook update. John Lancet leads HVS in Miami and oversees projects across the southeastern US and the Caribbean. With nearly 30 years at HVS, he has evaluated over 1,500 hotels and resorts and is a graduate of FIU's School of Hospitality Management and an expert witness. John is also a certified general appraiser and an MAI designated member of the Appraisal Institute. John?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. What I plan on presenting here is a snapshot of investments in the Southeast, specifically into the limited service hotels, and to give you different benchmarks on whether that acquisition or whether that investment is going to acquisitions or new development. I'm going to start with giving you a snapshot of the Southeast. Then I'm going to go through the seven individual states in the Southeast, giving you metrics for each. And then I'm going to wrap it up with the state of Florida. So here's a 3-year snapshot of the market investment, again, of limited service hotels in the Southeast. It's close, but the majority of the investment is going to acquisitions. It's about 53% of the investment that's going in, and the investment it equates to $6.3 billion. So over the last 4 quarters, there were 368 limited service hotels that traded. That was close to $3.4 billion, and the average price per room was $103,000. So when I provide you with these average prices, these exclude the pit costs that would come subsequent to the purchase, but on average, over the last four quarters in the Southeast, it was 103,000 room. Construction starts totaled about 2.9 billion for 123 hotels, and the average cost for construction was $204,000 per room. So it's almost double the amount of acquisitions on a price per key. Sum it up in the Southeast, we've been buying hotels that averaged 89 rooms, but building hotels that average 118 rooms. So we're buying smaller, we're building bigger, but we're buying considerably under replacement cost. Here's a snapshot of the top markets for construction and acquisition. For construction, Nashville is off the charts. It's amazing the amount of investment for new construction in Nashville. Second place is Orlando. There was construction loans for about 18 hotels, and it was about an average of about 20.5 million per hotel. Third for new construction was the Florida Panhandle. It's about $30 million on average for each, for about 7 hotels there. And fourth place was Atlanta. 10 hotels averaging about $19 million. For acquisition, the top 4 markets for the Southeast, Atlanta led, and it was a $9.7 million average per hotel in Atlanta for an impressive 27 hotels that traded. Miami was second with 13 hotels that traded an average of about 15.9 million. Nashville, a third place for 10 hotels at 16.5 million, and Tampa, fourth place at 11 hotels that traded for about 14 million. Here's a snapshot for Tennessee. Impressive. I mean, with especially the impact of Nashville, but an overall investment of about 1.4 billion, with 73% of that going to new construction. The Related to transactions in Tennessee, 42 hotels traded, and at an average price of 98,000 a key. And this is amazing, but the construction starts in Tennessee. There were 20 hotels, and the average price per room was 303,000. So construction at 303 versus acquisition at 98 for in Tennessee. So it's like a 3 times multiple. Here's this kind of, again, Nashville is off the charts, but the average price for a hotel in Nashville is about 16.5 million for about 10 hotels that sold. And then in second place was Memphis. They had about 3 hotels that sold there for about 10.5 million on average. Here's North Carolina. The majority of the investment went into acquisitions, with about 69% of dollars going to acquisitions. 72 hotels traded at an average price of 78,000 per room. It's about $500 million. And then construction starts. There were about 15 hotels for about 225 million, and that comes out to about 141,000 a room in construction costs in North Carolina versus the $78,000 acquisition cost. So the multiple in North Carolina is about 1.8 times. Here are the top markets for construction in North Carolina. Raleigh's on the top with 6 hotels. The average cost was about 17.7 million. Charlotte was second place with 3 hotels, about 13 million. Conversely, for acquisition, the top markets were Charlotte at the top with 16 hotels that traded. The average was 6.8 million. And in Raleigh, 7 hotels traded for an average an average price of 7.5 million. So basically we're paying in North Carolina about 1.9 times more to build versus buy. That's in Charlotte. And in Raleigh, it's about 2.3 times more to build than to buy in Raleigh. And again, that's not including any PIP costs. Here's South Carolina. The total investment in South Carolina is about 327 million. It's somewhat even, but acquisitions represented about 52% of the investment. Acquisitions in South Carolina averaged 76,000 a room for about 26 hotels. But construction cost averaged 172,000 per room for 9 hotels. So the multiple in South Carolina is about 2.2 times. Top 3 markets for construction in South Carolina are Charleston. 3 hotels, the average price is about 24 million. Columbia, 4 hotels at an average cost of about 14 million. In Greenville, there were 4 hotels at an average cost of about 12 million. And then the top 2 markets for acquisition were Charleston at the top, followed by Myrtle Beach. Mississippi, there wasn't a material amount of investment, but it was $44 million in Mississippi. 85% of it went to acquisitions. This was the closest gap between buy versus build. The average purchase price in Mississippi was $80,000, and the average price for construction was $85,000. Pretty tight there. Jackson, Mississippi had 2 hotels that traded, and the average price was about $3.5 million per hotel. This is Alabama, pretty tight as well, but still construction. Well, in this case, construction led the investment with about 54% of the 300 million that was invested. The average acquisition cost in Alabama was 73,000, and the average construction cost 171,000 a room. Equates to a 2.3 multiplier in Alabama. Top markets for construction in Alabama, Birmingham, with 4 hotels averaging 24 million. Second place, Huntsville, and same thing with acquisitions, Birmingham leads, with 5 hotels that traded at 7.4 million, and Huntsville with only 3 hotels that traded but at 9 million apiece. Seen a lot of interest recently in Huntsville on cross-line dust. Here's Georgia, at about $900 million of investment. 79% of it was to acquisitions. 85 hotels traded at 97,000 a room. There were 13 hotels with construction starts at 138,000 cost per room. So that multiplier was a little bit lower than the other ones. That was 1.4 million for Georgia. The top 2 construction markets in Georgia were Atlanta, followed by Savannah, and same thing with acquisitions. Atlanta led with 27 hotels that traded at about 9.7 million apiece, and Savannah had 4 hotels that traded for 10.2 million apiece. Let me just wrap it up with Florida here. Significant investment of $2.6 billion. 54% of it was for acquisitions, and 46% to new construction. The average acquisition cost in Florida, $136,000 a room, for pretty healthy 115 hotels that traded. But the average cost for new construction was $193,000. So 193 for 56 hotels versus 136 acquisition cost. Top 5 markets for construction in Florida. Orlando's at the top, with an average about 20 million a hotel. Second place is Panhandle. A lot of activity in the Panhandle. Higher cost there, about 30 million on average per hotel. Third place was Jacksonville. Fourth was Fort Myers, and 5th place for new constructions was Miami. And then the top 5 markets for acquisition in Florida, Miami led the pack with 13 hotels that traded at about 210 a key. Tampa was second place at 133 a key. Orlando, 3rd place at 81,000 a key. The Panhandle also was in 4th place for new acquisitions at about 140,000 a room. And 5th place was Fort Myers with 6 hotels that traded at 112,000 a room. So I hope this provides you with some benchmarks as you do your own comparisons about buy versus build. Please, take into recognition you have to adjust for a potential pit cost following your acquisition. I believe this presentation will be made available to you after the conference, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.